Something strange is happening to condos in Surrey Central. And not only that, something strange is happening to condos in Langley. There's an overwhelming plethora of strange things happening right now in the Fraser Valley. But before I get into Surrey Central and Langley, I'm first going to get into the valley as a whole, okay? So this is what we did. On aggregate, we went down about $9,000 and we are officially below the January 2023 low. This has been a long time coming. I called the bottom here. I'm now officially wrong, and we are below the January 2023 low for price on the HPI. Going into inventory, seasonally, this happens every year. Inventory is now starting to fall off for the remainder of the year. As you can see, this happened in 2024 right around September. It happened in 2023 right around October, and it happened in 2022, it happened even earlier. But this is normal for this time of year. Inventory will fall off and then it kind of bottoms in December or January before more people start listing their homes again in the next coming spring. And the sales to actives on aggregate is around 10%, which is exactly 10 months of inventory, which is a very strong buyer's market. So that's aggregate. Now I'm going to show you guys detached. Detached here went down about $16,000, and this is not below the January 2023 low of 1.345 million. We are at 1.42 million. Inventory again coming off, and you have the sales to actives actually went up. It went up from 8% to 9%, and you can see a small uptick in sales here. And that's why, because inventory came down, small uptick in sales, and that's exactly why the sales to actives ratio slightly increased. Now on to apartments. Apartments came down $4,000. Again, this is all across the Fraser Valley. This is not below the December 2022 low of 500,000. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Sales to actives ratio went up 0.5% in the month of September. So this also went up for condos. Again, that's because inventory is coming down and there's a slight seasonal uptick in sales for usually September and October before it slows down in November, December. And then townhomes came down about $12,000 all across the Fraser Valley, but it's still about $20,000 above that 2022 low. And then the sales to actives, again, right across the board in every product type, you have the sales to actives slightly increasing. Now on to Surrey Central apartments. I found this to be interesting. You might find it to be interesting as well. Look at this. Prices were exactly flat. And it went from a market that is literally in free fall to 1 month where the prices were just completely flat. And I think in my last video, I said like this was going to continue and we're probably going to get to this June 2018 high of 394,000. But now we have a flattening of the price. I'm not calling a bottom here. I'm not saying prices are done falling, but this is also interesting. Inventory. Take note of when the inventory started dropping and how much it's dropped. So we went from 813 condos on the market to, by the end of September, 675. Last year, similar, inventory kind of started dropping around July, August, but by September, it only went down about 20 units. And then pretty much every year from November to December, you see a big drop off in inventory, right? If I go back here, November to December, boom, big drop off. November to December, boom, big drop off. So we're only at September right now, and inventory typically will fall until December. And if you were to draw a trend line from like where inventory started rocketing from December of 2021, if you were to actually draw a trend line here, we're basically right on the trend line of higher lows and higher highs in inventory. And earlier this year, I was saying, well, this year might be as high as inventory gets. And we may actually break that trend of higher lows this year. Because if inventory keeps dropping like how it always drops into December, well, the inventory is going to fall, below that trend line if we're pretty much sitting on it right now, right? Like you might see inventory that is similar to last year around December. So it's interesting. And what I think this is sellers now realizing where the market price is. I have to sell my condo for $400,000. I don't want to sell it for $400,000. It was $500,000 at the start of the year. I'm not doing that. I don't care that I'm cash flow negative. I'm going to rent it out. I'm not selling it for $400,000. And what I think this is a lot of people, like how I've been talking a lot about, a market will bottom when it starts running out of sellers, is a lot of the sellers that there's going to be a lot of people in here that do have to sell and just end up relisting next year. But I also think there's a lot of people here that are just not down to sell at the prices and they don't have to sell. And they're just like, screw it. I'm not selling. I'm pulling my unit off the market. I'm done with this. I'm taking it off the available supply that you can purchase. And maybe next year, inventory is still going to be high. Prices are probably still going to go down, but maybe this is as high as inventory gets. And maybe we bottom out somewhere around here. And then next year during the spring, when inventory comes up again, it doesn't go as high as this 813 listings. So this could be a turning point for Surrey Central condos where things gradually start getting better. Like we've hit the worst that could happen and things start getting better. And when I say start getting better, I don't mean that the prices are going to stabilize. The prices aren't going to go down. But at least one metric, because every single way that you can measure what's happening in Surrey Central has been getting worse. Well, maybe the inventory side of things is going to start to slowly get better. And over the next 18 months, bring us back into balanced territory, or the next 12 months or whatever it is going to bring us back into balanced territory. And yeah, I don't know. This could be the worst of it, is what I'm saying, right? It looks like the inventory of higher highs and higher lows might be changing, right? Sales to actives went up. Again, 8% still sucks. You're still going to see prices drop. But there is a lot of inventory coming off of the market right now, and this could be the peak for inventory, at least in Surrey Central condos. Now, Langley condos. And this was one of the only product types that I could find in the Valley where the inventory actually increased in September. It went higher. It started coming off in July and then boom, took another leg up. And I think that's because if you look at the prices of condos in Langley, they have come down, but they haven't come down like crazy. Like they haven't come down like Surrey Central. And, I said too that if Surrey Central becomes as cheap as it is now, basically, it's going to start pulling demand away from these other condo markets because, a one-bed condo in, say, Willoughby is $485,000, $480,000. Well, now there's like one-bedroom product in Surrey Central that's $390,000, right? So people don't want to live in Surrey Central. They would prefer to live in Willoughby. Willoughby's a way better area, but when you're saving $90,000 for living in Surrey Central and you pretty much have a very similar commute as you would in Langley, I think a lot of people will opt into moving to Surrey Central. And I think that is probably playing a factor in this inventory now going higher and maybe Surrey Central kind of maybe peaking. And, you're seeing, a lot of inventory come off in Surrey Central. And I don't think that is the sole reason. I think it's a very small contributor to this at this point, but I just think the prices haven't fallen very much in Langley. Langley's been very resilient. Like what's the sales to actives here? It's still 11%, which isn't good. But when you talk about condos, it's comparatively not bad. But I mean, throughout this whole thing, even through 2025, it's been in a balanced market, right? So now that it's dropped down into this territory and you're seeing the inventory finally start to build up in Langley and you're probably going to see the prices come down. It is very impressive that Langley was this resilient for this long, staying in basically seller's market or balanced territory. Now it seems like that is finally changing for Langley condos. But yeah, I don't expect this is going to be the bottom for Surrey Central, but for the people who hold condos in Surrey Central, or for the people who maybe just bought a condo in Surrey Central, I would say this is positive for Surrey. I think the prices have come down so much at this point that a lot of sellers are not down to sell at these prices, and a lot of buyers are down to purchase at these prices. And yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But at the very least, I'd say this is a positive piece of news for Surrey Central. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to chat with me about buying or selling a condo in maybe one of these areas, you can book a time to chat with me using the link below. Otherwise, I just appreciate you for watching my videos. Seriously, I really do. Everybody who watches them, likes, comments, thank you so much for doing so. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.